Good afternoon and happy Heart Month. My name is Kathleen Stanley. I'm Executive Managing Director at Webster Bank and the 2022 Long Island Go Red for Women campaign chair. I'd like to welcome you this afternoon to the Go Red for Women Day of Wellness. We are excited to bring you a day of engaging and informative content to help you reclaim your rhythm. We are rallying our communities to get us back on the beat and feeling the rhythm, to empower our audiences to take action and take control of their health by creating healthy habits. Thank you to Northwell Health, our Live Fierce Go Red sponsor, and to all our sponsors for supporting Go Red for Women. This afternoon, I'm excited to introduce Northwell Health to lead us in a discussion around nutrition with Dr. Maria D. Avila, advanced heart failure transplant cardiologist at South Shore University Hospital, Northwell Health, and Marissa Licata, registered dietitian at Katz Institute for Women's Health, Northwell Health. Dr. Evelina Graver, Director of Women's Heart Health at Northwell Central Region and Katz Women Institute, will also be leading us through a cooking demo. And at the end of the session, there will be plenty of time for questions. Thank you for joining us virtually today. Please save the date and join us in person for the Go Red for Women luncheon at the Crest Hollow Country Club on Wednesday, May 4th.
Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Marissa Licata, and I am a registered dietitian at Northwell's Katz Institute for Women's Health.
Good morning. My name is Maria Avila. I am a cardiologist at Northwell Health. It's my pleasure to join Marisa in this very relevant webinar.
So today we're going to be talking about the American Heart Association's Salty 6. 6 types of foods and food products that are particularly high in their sodium content. The American Heart Association recommends that most Americans, the general public, consume no more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day, whereas most of us actually consume over 3,000 per day.
Thank you, Marisa. I think it's important to let our audience know that there is a direct relationship between salt intake and blood pressure. We know that excess levels of salt or sodium puts us at risk of cardiac disease, such as heart failure, high blood pressure, stroke, and kidney disease. This is why the recommended amount of sodium intake to have an ideal heart health, especially patients with high blood pressure, is 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day, which is less than the recommended amount that you just mentioned for the general public. So why don't we just simplify this information and maybe let's just focus on the Salty 6. I'll let you get started.
Thank you, Dr. Avila. And before we do jump into the Salty 6, I want to mention that when you are food shopping and making your food selection choices, it's recommended that you look at the back of the nutrition facts label on the products and look at the sodium content of the foods that you are choosing. And a low sodium product is going to be 140 milligrams of sodium or less. So you want to keep that in mind when you're looking at the sodium content of different foods. And the first category of the Salty 6 is going to be breads and rolls. Now, some of these food items you're going to learn are not necessarily the salty foods that you may think of, but there are hidden sources of sodium in many of these products. Bread in particular. Most of us do not make our own bread, that we're purchasing a commercial bread product. And the sodium content of a slice of bread can range from 80 milligrams of sodium up to 250 milligrams of sodium per slice. So if you happen to select a good quality whole grain bread that has 250 milligrams of sodium per slice, when you make a sandwich, that's 2 slices, you're already at 500 milligrams before you put anything on your sandwich. So you really want to be mindful and start reading those food labels and select a bread that's lower in sodium content.
Another very important source of sodium is pizza. Let's keep in mind that a slice of pepperoni pizza can contain as much as 1/3 of our daily recommended sodium intake. So maybe next time that you want to eat a slice of pizza, consider swapping it for veggies instead.
Excellent recommendation, Dr. Avila. Also, too, Sandwiches, when you're out and about and you're in a restaurant or you're in a fast food establishment, you really want to be cognizant of the items that you're choosing. A hamburger at a fast food restaurant or a sandwich could have 100% of your daily sodium requirements, depending upon what you're choosing. So you really want to maybe choose half of a sandwich and make sure you're choosing something that is a lower sodium choice at the restaurant.
It's hard to talk about sandwich and not mention cold cuts and cured meats, which is another item of our Salty 6. 6 slices of deli meat can also contain as much as 1/3 of our daily recommended sodium intake. So I think if you're thinking about making a sandwich, it's important to try to build it up with fresh vegetables, maybe some lettuce, tomatoes, avocados, and even bell peppers.
Another item in our Salty 6 would be soups. So ideally, we would advise you to make your own homemade soups because if you are the chef, you are controlling the amount of salt that you're using in your soup. When we're looking at canned soups could have upwards of 1,000 milligrams of sodium in a cup. So when you're food shopping, you really want to be aware of how much sodium is in that product and choose something with a low sodium content, no added salt, low salt variety that's 140 milligrams of sodium or less.
That's a great recommendation. Nothing better than a warm soup during this cold winter. So let's move to our last item. Last but not least, we have burritos and tacos, which are also included in this Salty 6. They're very tasty, as we all know, but unfortunately, they're full of toppings and fillings that have a very high sodium intake. We should choose burritos and tacos that are full of veggies and lean sources of proteins.
In addition to the Salty 6 that we just mentioned, it would behoove me not to mention additional food items that are particularly high in sodium. And these are condiments, very different types of condiments, ranging from ketchup, teriyaki sauce, soy sauce, even salad dressing. Certain salad dressings, a 2-tablespoon serving could have upwards of 500 milligrams of sodium or less. So when you are food shopping, you want to look for no salt added, low salt varieties of particular products to ensure that you are, in fact, minimizing your daily sodium intake. So let me just summarize what we covered today for the American Heart Association's Salty 6 and the different categories that we discussed. Breads and rolls, pizza, sandwiches, cold cuts and cured meats, soups, and burritos and tacos.
Those are great points, Marisa. Thank you so much. With this, I would like to thank Marisa and our viewers for connecting with us today. I hope this information was useful. I will also like to emphasize the importance of healthy dietary patterns to prevent cardiovascular disease. Some general recommendations for a healthy diet include eating plenty of fruits and vegetables, choosing foods made mostly with whole grains rather than refined grains, choosing healthy sources of proteins like legumes, nuts, fish or seafood, fat-free dairy products, lean cuts of meat and poultry, avoiding processed food, choose and prepare foods with little or no salt, as we just discussed, trying to avoid the Salty 6, minimizing beverages and foods with added sugars, avoiding alcohol intake, and let's remember that this should all be accompanied by increased physical activity. Again, thank you very much for your attention to this webinar. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Avila and Marisa. It's now my pleasure to welcome Dr. Graver and her daughter, Kayla.
On today's Healthy Choice, I'm at home with Northwell's own leader, Dr. Evelina Graver, Director of the Coronary Care Unit of the Sandra Atlas Bat Heart Hospital of North Shore University Hospital, and her daughter, Kayla. We're making a sweet ricotta bruschetta topped with strawberries and pistachios.
It's February, it's the Heart Healthy Month, so Kayla and I are going to make one of our favorite desserts, and it's also the month of love and Valentine's Day, so sweetness is always a good thing. So here we go.
Pistachio nuts are filled with unsaturated fats, which help reduce your LDL or your bad cholesterol and triglycerides. They're really great for heart health.
I'm taking off the tops of the strawberry and I'm cutting it into 4 sections.
Following Kayla's lead, we're just going to thinly slice the strawberries into about 4 to 5 slices apiece, so it'll be easy to top our bruschetta. Strawberries contain anthocyanins, which counter the buildup of plaque in coronary arteries.
Next thing is to chop the little pistachios.
A food processor definitely makes this step easier, but you can also use a sharp knife too. On an angle, cut the bread into about 1/2-inch slices.
Looks nice and pretty. So the next thing is the olive oil. So we're just going to brush the bread.
Just brush the tops of the bread with just a little bit of oil so it gets golden brown in the oven.
And the oven is ready for us to actually put it in into the oven for the next 10 minutes.
While the bread's baking, we'll make our sweet cream with some part skim ricotta and pure maple syrup. It's a decadently delicious indulgence.
Perfect. Okay. We're going to put a teaspoon of our blend of the ricotta cheese with the maple.
Now I'm going to put a slice or 2 of the strawberries on top. So then that's 1 and 2. So that's what it looks like so far.
I'm going to start with drizzling a little bit of the pistachios.
In under 15 minutes, this dessert bruschetta is about ready to serve. It's creamy, salty, crunchy, and heart healthy. We're just going to finish it off with some fresh citrus of zested lemon right on top.
It looks very pretty. Be a very incredibly easy to make, right, Kayla?
Extremely.
Extremely. And that's a really great heart healthy dessert for the month of February. So thank you and have a wonderful, wonderful February. Sweet and happy Valentine's Day.
And have fun making this dessert.
Have fun making this dessert. Bye.
As always, see the description down below for exact ingredients or visit us on the My Benefits Employee Wellness website. Be sure to like, comment, and share our videos and subscribe to see more.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to continue our day of wellness here, and we want to start by saying a special thank you to Northwell Health for sponsoring this lunchtime session. And of course, we want to thank all of our guest speakers who participated in that presentation. But now I'm really excited to welcome Sharon Zarabi. She's a registered dietitian with Katz Institute for Women's Health at Northwell Health. And she's actually going to take a few minutes with us to answer a few questions and see how, how we can add a little bit of a little more depth to what we just heard. So Sharon, welcome.
Thank you, Diego. And I'm happy to speak on behalf of Marissa's wonderful talk on the Salty Six. So thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, let's start by just talking about the second clip that we watched there with Dr. Graver and her daughter, because I want to ask you, why is it so important that when we prepare meals at home, we cook at home, that we involve our family, whether that's our children, our parents, to really make it a family experience?
So that's a great question. I think healthy eating actually starts in the home. It is our sanctuary. It's where we dwell. It's where we spend a lot of our time. It's where we make connections with people. And, I'm always talking about being really connected with our body, connected with the foods that we eat. Food is medicine. It's what heals us. It's what can cause disease, can lead to heart disease, hypertension. And by spending more time in the kitchen and preparing foods with the kids, you're really engaging them in this event. And they start to develop a healthier relationship with food. We live in a very fast-paced society where we're just grabbing things on the go. And when we just take a second to stop and, smell the fruits and the vegetables, we tend to really understand how these foods impact our health. So from the shopping and the washing and the chopping and the cutting and the baking, we're really becoming a part of this event.
I love that. And I also think of the word like curiosity. You're kind of sparking that curiosity in young people, especially about being open to trying new foods. Would you agree?
Yeah. And I mean, fruits and vegetables come in all, colors and shapes and textures. And I think that we just need to explore that a little bit more. We tend to think of a salad of just this light colored bunch of veggies or a crudité platter, but there's so many ways to be creative. And Dr. Graver just showed us a wonderful way to use strawberries. You don't have to eat them alone, but they can be a part of a dish. So one reason why I went into, the field of nutrition and dietetics is because we are the master of our own plate. So there is no right or wrong. Every food plays a function and a role, and it can add texture, it can add flavor, it can add color, and we eat with our eyes. So it's good to have that variety.
I love that phrase, we eat with our eyes. So we talked about salt. That Salty 6 was really informative. Obviously, some of the foods there are yummy, and we know kind of to eat it in moderation and to stay away in some instances. But what about sugar? How does sugar impact our health?
So sugar, like salt, is also a preservative. It allows food to last on the shelf longer. The difference between sugar and salt is that sugar is a type of carbohydrate, where salt is sodium, and it's a type of mineral. And carbohydrates actually contain calories, and calories are what can cause weight gain. There are no calories in salt. However, there are other, side effects to our health. If you eat too much sodium, it can cause elevated blood pressure. It can lead to heart disease. It could actually retain water. So if you go on the scale, you might be a little bit more bloated, a little bit more inflamed from the water retention. But sugar, on the other hand, if you eat excessive sugar, it can get stored as body fat over time. And again, this is what can cause weight gain, not in a water form, but actually in fat cells.
And I think most people know that, a source of sugar is something like a soda. But are there other hidden places or drinks or things where sugars might be hiding?
Yeah, I get this question asked all the time. Anything that ends with ose, so glucose, sucrose, fructose, they're all different types of sugars that we find in a lot of the packaged foods. Honey is a form of sugar. Maple syrup or any other brown rice syrup, tapioca syrup are all forms of sugar. So you don't need to really be such a food detective or a nutrition professional to understand that. It's really important, as Marissa alluded to before, of looking at the back of a nutrition facts label, and you'll always see sugars listed there. My rule of thumb is that you should try to keep your sugars less than 10 grams per serving per item that you eat. The American Heart Association does recommend that women and men get less than 5 or 6 teaspoons of added sugar in our diet. So it's important to look at the label to see where these sugars are actually coming from.
I think that's such great advice. Look at that label, become familiar with how to read that food label. It's not just about the expiration date on the label, it's really what's in the food. So thank you for mentioning that. I want to talk to you too, because we're still living in this moment of being in this pandemic. How have you seen people's diets change over the last year and a half or 2 years now?
Well, while many people have been in lockdown, they're going to be limited to their space. And I think we all know what happens when we don't leave the house and we have a refrigerator that's not too far away and not too many steps away. So I think a lot of us, food is meant to be fuel. We eat it to survive. Again, when we were hunters and gatherers back in the day, we were foraging for food, for energy, and now it's just so easily accessible. We look to food to fill in our time. So when we're bored, we eat. A lot of people can use food when they're emotional. So again, if we're excited and happy and celebrating, we tend to have cake and sweets. Some people manage their stress by eating food or their anxiety. Others may not eat because they're just so stressed. So I think we all as individuals need to just be more aware of why we're eating. Again, if you're sitting in the house and there's nothing else to do, you probably shouldn't be raiding the refrigerator or the kitchen, and engage in something else with your time. Again, as a clinician, I could tell you, people tell me they don't have time to exercise. Maybe you should really identify how much time are you putting in front of the television, into eating certain snacks that you probably wouldn't have, and use that time a little bit more productively. So I think that the pandemic has multifold effects. Some people actually use the kitchen and their time to learn a little bit more about healthy eating and are cooking more. So I think it's really what your perspective is and how you look at it. So you can sit and be a little, the Debbie Downer and just be like, I'm going to eat whatever's in the fridge or the pantry, or you can use that time a little bit more productively to learn more about healthy eating, taking charge of your health, and using the kitchen as your new resource for healthy living.
Sharon, this has been a great conversation. I just have one more question to you, and it deals with mental health. We often say that food is mood. How can food impact our mental health positively or negatively?
Well, food, there is science that actually supports that food does affect our mood. Whatever we eat, as I mentioned before, contains macro and micronutrients, all which play with different hormones in our brain and the neurotransmitters and how we feel, with dopamine and serotonin. I think most of us know when we have something sweet, we have this high, we're elated, and then sometimes we crash down. So I think going back to anything else when we speak about nutrition is try to avoid processed foods that have been, machine made or packaged. They probably have been stripped of their nutrients, which won't help your brain and cognition and development. And try to stick more with whole foods, fruits, vegetables, lean sources of protein, healthy fish, healthy sources of fat, to help with the neurotransmission of feeling better.
Sharon, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to take one more opportunity to thank Northwell Health for sponsoring this conversation. And I also want to thank Dr. Avila, Marissa Licata, Dr. Graver, and Kayla for their contribution. And I want to ask Brittany if you can bring up that slide. I want to encourage everyone to join us on Wednesday, May 4th at the Crest Hollow Country Club for the 2022 Long Island Go Red for Women Luncheon. Please save that date, and if you have your phone up, take a look at that QR code, scan that QR code, click on the link, and find more information about that event taking place Wednesday, May 4th. On behalf of all of us here at the American Heart Association and Northwell Health, our sponsor, we want to thank you for joining us. And we want to remind you that the day is not over yet. The Day of Wellness is going to continue at 3:30 with a special conversation about finance and mental health. We always say that health is wealth, and we've been talking about our bodies, our minds, but we're also going to talk about our wallets. So join us at 3:30. We'll see you there. Thank you, Long Island.